If you start working with WWE again, would you consider burying the hatchet with Hulk Hogan?
No.
Conversation, at least?
I don't know.
When was the last time you spoke to Hulk Hogan?
I don't know. He betrayed me to an extent. Well, I'll tell you the story.
That's 30 years ago, right?
Yeah. But this was just prior to WrestleMania 2. We were all in a dressing room, and there was nobody from the office. I waited, and I got up on a chair, and I told everybody, now is our time to unionize. I said, all the publicity's gone out on WrestleMania. I said, if we refuse to wrestle, unless union negotiators are brought in, it's federal law. They have to be brought in. It's the law. And I said, and then if we can get the Charlotte guys to join us, we can freeze them, freeze Vince, and force them to do collective bargaining, and we can finally get a union. And I gave my impassioned speech, right? The next day I go home, my phone rings, it's Vince. What the fuck? Union, da-da-da. I said, Vince, I fought him. I said, Vince, I'm not talking about just fighting you and that. I said, right now, this was 1980s. I said, right now, I pay $5,000 a year for health care for my family. If we had a union, I might only have to pay $1,250, because there's strength in numbers.
Sure.
I said, what about all the guys I've seen that give 30 years to this business, and in the end, they ain't got a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of? If we had a union, maybe they could retire with $500 a month. Something.
Yeah.
I said, why? And you know what did it for me? I was in Las Vegas, and I got on an elevator. And you know who got on the elevator with me?
Who?
A great big offensive guard from the Oakland Raiders by the name of Gene Upshaw. Do you know who Gene Upshaw was?
Yeah.
Head of the NFL Players Association. I got on that elevator, and Gene Upshaw, I said, hi, Gene. Hey, Jesse, nice to meet you. Gene's big black finger went up in the air, and he goes, you boys need a union. And I said, I know. Gene Upshaw sparked me and said, you boys need a union. I said, I know we do. So I stood up. I gave my impassioned thing to unionize. Vince called me on the carpet the next day. I didn't care. I was going to do Predator. And then when I came back to Vince, I told Vince, you don't have to worry about me speaking out on union no more. He goes, really? Why not? I said, I got mine, Screen Actors Guild. I said, I now get health benefits, retirement. Right now, with the little shit that I did in Hollywood, I'm retired on over $50,000 a year from SAG. I get over $50,000 a year.
Still?
Right now.
Wow.
I'm collecting it. It's my retirement.
Wow.
And so when I came back to Vince, I said, you don't need to worry about me. If these dummies don't want to protect themselves, screw them. I tried. I said, I got my SAG card, and I'm on retirement right now. I started at age 70. Started collecting, and I made it up to where I make over $50,000 a year in SAG retirement. And then I have after retirement too.
Wow.
Which is the broadcasters.
Yeah.
And I could never figure this one out. But then it came to me. Why, since wrestling's on TV every week, why weren't they required to join AFTRA? You want to know why?
Why?
Healthcare. You think AFTRA wants to bring in 1,000 wrestlers into their healthcare system? It would bankrupt them. That can be the only reason.
Yeah.
Because they're on TV every week on television. Why aren't they required to join AFTRA?
Yeah. Jesse, this has been an honor and a privilege to be able to sit with you.
Well, I've told you more than I wanted to. But backstories. But getting back to the Hogan thing, if we finish up on that.
Yeah.
what ended up happening was this, and that's why I know he did it. Because when I sued the WWF over royalties for videotape, I used to say to Vince all the time, Vince, how come everything I do in Hollywood, I get royalties, and everything I do for you, I get nothing? Why is that? Why are you different than Hollywood? Well, I said, could it be a union? Could that be the difference? And so getting back to what had happened was when I sued the WWF, we had to take Vince's deposition. So me and my lawyer flew to Connecticut. Now I can't say nothing because you sit in a deposition. I got to stay silent. But I told my attorney the whole story. I said, if you can find out who ratted me, who was the rat? Who was the, as we called him, what were they called in the old days? What did they call them again? Stooge. Yeah. Office stooge. That's what it was called in the old traditional days of territories. The office stooge. Who was the office stooge that stooged me to the office?
Yeah.
So we sat down deposing Vince, and it got halfway through, and the lawyer can ask anything.
Yeah.
And my attorney says to Vince, Mr. McMahon, he said, has there ever been a union in wrestling? And Vince goes, no. Has anyone ever tried to form one? And Vince paused a moment. He said, yeah. He said, I think Jesse Ventura spouted his mouth off about it one time, years ago. My attorney said, really? He said, how did you know did you hear Mr. Ventura? Talk about unionizing?
Yeah.
And Vince said, no. My attorney said, well, then how did you know? With no hesitation. Vince answered, Hulk Hogan told me. Now, he's under sworn deposition here. He's under sworn deposition to tell the truth.
Yeah.
There was no hesitation. Hulk Hogan told me. And then Vince also admitted it to Larry King when he was on Larry King, because Larry King brought it up. Is it true that Hulk Hogan's the one that ratted Jesse Ventura when he tried to unionize wrestling? And Vince said, yeah.
I hope you guys can at least have a conversation one day. It was a long time ago.
Well, when you have a guy who's as narcissistic as Donald Trump, it ain't going to happen until I hear an apology from him.
From Hulk Hogan?
Yeah.
What's Donald Trump have to do with that?
He's the narcissist like Hogan.
Oh.
Birds of a feather flock together.
I see. Yeah.
Well, I heard he was at the Republican convention. Yep. I already heard about that. Right. Hogan was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had to write, if somebody wrote here, they'd have done better with Doink the Clown. No, it's in the paper here. They said Doink the Clown would have been better. That's my friend Matt, the late Matt Bourne.